Beneath the ancient pines that bordered the rugged peaks of the sacred mountain, the air shimmered with the secrets of a bygone era. Lena's heart pounded in rhythm with the eternal pulse of nature as she walked along a hidden path. The forest, a mosaic of twilight hues and dappled sunlight, was both a sanctuary and a battleground for souls caught between mortal lives and supernatural destinies. As she moved with quiet determination, the whispers of nature and the lingering presence of lost gods reminded her that fate was ever watchful, threading its silent narrative around every step she took. Lena had been raised amidst the embrace of modern city life in the United States, yet there was an inexplicable pull towards the wilderness, a call from a long-forgotten ancestral lineage. Now, as she approached the ancient temple ruins hidden within the wilderness, memories of childhood legends converged with the shocking revelations of her recent investigations. The ruins stood as a testament to an era when gods and men communed freely, and every stone seemed carved with an underlying promise of redemption and the promise of power. It was here, among these relics of a mystical past, that she had first heard the faint strain of destiny calling her name. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sudden appearance of Thane, a figure as commanding as he was enigmatic. Tall and fiercely striking, Thane exuded an aura of authority tempered by personal torment. As an alpha of a prestigious pack, his very presence imposed respect, yet behind his intense gaze lay a history of unfulfilled vows and unspoken sorrow. Lena remembered the moment they first met. The tension between them was palpable, as if the universe had conspired to unite their disparate fates with an indelible bond. Thane was not simply a leader of his kind. He was a bearer of an ancient divine oath that tethered his soul to a destiny far greater than any mortal ambition. "Lena," Thane said in a low, resonant tone that seemed to echo both within her and through the corridors of time, "this path you walk has been prophesied. It intertwines our lives in ways we have yet to comprehend." His eyes, dark pools reflecting a storm of emotion, locked onto hers. In that charged moment, the gentle rustle of the wind seemed to merge with the beating of their hearts, as if nature itself conspired to herald the significance of their meeting. Lena's voice trembled with both hope and fear as she responded, "I have felt it for so long, a pull towards something beyond us, beyond the mundane confines of this modern world. But Thane, I fear that the weight of your sacred oath might draw you away, leaving me stranded on a path of solitude and despair." Her words were not merely confessions of personal insecurities. They hinted at the deeper undercurrents of fate that threatened to tear apart the very fabric of her being. As the two began to retrace the fated steps leading to the heart of the ancient temple, the landscape shifted from the lively embrace of the urban outskirts into the raw, unyielding wild. The bustling cityscape of towering skyscrapers and neon-lit streets was replaced by the somber silence of age-old stone altars and moss-covered relics. Each step forward was a descent into a realm where time lost its usual measured pace, replaced by the erratic rhythm of destiny itself. In the depths of the temple's inner sanctum, Lena discovered symbols etched in a language long lost to memory. They resonated with a power that surpassed the mundane, carrying hints of celestial secrets that promised either salvation or ruin. As she carefully traced the contours of the carvings, a sudden vision gripped her, a cascade of images from a past filled with betrayals, tragic romances, and ancient rituals. The vision was not merely a reminder of her heritage. It was a forewarning of the sacrifices required to preserve the fragile balance between human emotion and supernatural legacy. Thane, who had silently observed Lena's awe and trepidation, broke the silence with a confession that struck deep into her core. "My oath is not one of blind duty, Lena. It is woven from the threads of my ancestors' honor and the very essence of the divine promise that binds my soul. I have made sacrifices before, and I shall make them again, if it means protecting what truly matters." His words were resolute, yet within them lay the undercurrent of a pain that had haunted him since before his time as Alpha. Their dialogue was punctuated by the distant rumble of thunder, as if the elements themselves mourned the inevitable trials ahead. Lena's mind whirled with thoughts. Was her love for Thane enough to breach the barriers erected by ancient obligations? Could passion truly challenge the ordained course set by the gods? And what of the secrets concealed within her own family history, a lineage tainted by betrayal and burdened with mysteries unsolved? While the temple walls bore witness to their inner conflicts, the external world was caught in the grip of its own transformation. Far below the sacred mountain, in the bustling heart of the modern city, a series of inexplicable events began to unfold. A prestigious lineage, long believed to be extinguished, stirred quietly as hidden truths clawed their way into the light. Newspaper clippings and hushed conversations in dimly lit bars hinted at a rising unrest among the shifter communities, a crisis that could only be a precursor to the unraveling of old alliances and the birth of new destinies. In a hidden chamber beneath the temple, Lena encountered a mysterious figure cloaked in shadows, a relative she had never expected to meet. The figure introduced herself only with a name that carried the weight of ancestral sorrow, Seraphine. Her voice was soft yet firm, conveying secrets that had been passed down through generations. Lena, there are truths about our bloodline that the gods themselves have tried to conceal. Betrayals of ages past still echo within us, and redemption will only come when the final oath is fulfilled. In that moment, the labyrinth of familial secrets opened before Lena's eyes, each revelation a shard of broken trust and unresolved anger. Seraphine's words ignited within Lena a fire of determination. If her love and destiny were intertwined with that of Thanes and the ancient oath, then she was compelled to uncover every hidden truth, even if it meant facing unspeakable betrayals and risking the very essence of her soul. The revelation set her on a collision course with forces beyond her control, forces that would soon test the boundaries of love, loyalty, and the price of redemption. As dusk turned the sky a deep shade of indigo, Lena and Thane emerged from the temple with newfound resolve. The cold night air was filled with both foreboding and anticipation. Lena's mind buzzed with the fragments of visions and prophecies, each one a piece of an intricate puzzle that promised to change the course of their lives. Thane, ever the protector burdened by a vow, silently vowed to fight against the destiny that sought to pull them apart, even if that battle led him into the heart of darkness itself. Their conversation resumed under the gleam of a solitary streetlight near the city's edge, where the remnants of ancient power and modern ambition converged. "Thane," Lena whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of unshed tears, "if we are to defy the gods and break the chains of the past, we must first come to terms with our truths. I cannot bear the thought of you being condemned by duty while I am left to drown in secrets and regret." Thane's eyes softened with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. "Lena, no oath or ancient pact can ever diminish the bond we share. But know this, the path we tread is fraught with danger. Every secret unearthed, every betrayal revisited, will demand a sacrifice. And in that sacrifice, perhaps we shall find our redemption." Their words, heavy with promise and peril, hung in the cool night air, a prelude to the storm that was soon to break over both their lives and the hidden realms that bound them. As they prepared to part ways for the night, with plans to meet again at the break of a new day that promised both hope and heartache, the tension between duty and desire reached its crescendo. Lena gazed at the distant city skyline, where the bright lights of urban life blurred with the lingering presence of the ancient wilderness. The boundaries between modernity and myth were dissolving, and within that collapse lay the key to a future neither of them could yet imagine. The enigmatic call of the gods, the haunting presence of familial betrayal, and the undeniable pull of a love that defied mortal constraints set the stage for a conflict that was both internal and cosmic. In the solitude of her modest apartment that very night, Lena sat by the window, her eyes tracing the silhouette of the city against the endless canvas of the night. Every flickering street lamp reminded her of the many lives entwined in this grand tapestry of destiny, where every decision bore consequences that could ripple through time. The reflection of the moon danced softly on her tear-stained cheeks as she whispered to herself, "Tonight I must choose, between a love that promises everything and a duty that has haunted me all my life." Her declaration was not just an expression of inner turmoil, it was the spark that would ignite a chain reaction of revelations and confrontations in the days to come. At that moment, the distant echo of an unseen howl reverberated through the night, a sound that was both a summons and a warning. It was as if the very fabric of the universe was calling out, preparing to unravel the mysteries that had long been hidden in the shadows of the past. With every heartbeat, the tension mounted, drawing Lena inexorably toward a destiny that was as uncertain as it was inescapable. Lena closed her eyes, steeling herself for the challenges awaiting her at the crossroads of love and legacy. The promise of both light and darkness mingled in the cool night air, leaving her with a single unspoken question. Would she be able to harness the strength to break the chains of fate, or was her destiny written in blood and sorrow forever? In that fragile moment before the new dawn, everything hung in the balance, and the night murmured its final, cryptic promise of what was yet to come. Embers flickered across the awakening skyline as the first light of morning ignited a new chapter in Lena's quest for truth. The city stirred outside the quiet enclave of the sacred mountain, and within its vibrant urban pulse, old legends melded with modern chaos. Lena awoke in the small attic apartment where she sought solace, her mind racing with the revelations of the previous night. The visions and cryptic prophecies haunted her, urging her to decipher the legacy of her bloodline and its intricate ties to Thane's cursed oath. At sunrise, Lena set off toward the city's historic district, a place where centuries-old buildings whispered secrets of generations past. The urban landscape bore witness to a paradoxical blend of progressive light and shadowed relics, the juxtaposition of modern ambition and ancestral burden. Along the bustling streets, graffiti and neon signs shared space with aged murals depicting long-forgotten myths. Here, the tangible hum of daily life was interlaced with the intangible energy of forgotten lore. In the heart of the district, Lena met with a trusted confidant, her childhood friend Marcus. He was a meticulous archivist of family stories and local legends, a keeper of memories in a city where history often dissolved into the digital ether. Over steaming cups of coffee in a hidden cafe adorned with relics and heirlooms, Lena recounted the enigmatic warnings spoken by Seraphine and the haunting prophecy etched in the temple's walls. "Lena, I've been diving into the archives all night," Marcus confided, his eyes alight with curiosity and concern. "There are records that speak of a ritual, one that unites the cosmic bond of shifters with a power greater than any human ambition. Your family's lineage appears on these documents, bound to secret rites and hidden allegiances that transcend time." His words resonated deeply, affirming her belief that the key to her destiny was locked within her own history. Their conversation soon shifted to Thane's role in this ancestral drama. Marcus pulled from dusty ledgers and yellowed pages scribbled in an archaic hand. "Thane's oath is not simply a relic of the past, it is an active force that has shaped conflicts and alliances among the shifter clans for decades," he explained. "The text suggests that the Alpha's promise was forged through sacrifice, and it echoes down through the ages as both salvation and curse." Lena's thoughts swirled with the duality of hope and despair, realizing that every revelation was laced with paradox. While the duo pored over ancient manuscripts and maps, Thane was on a parallel journey of inner reckoning. In his secluded woodland estate at the outskirts of the city, he wrestled with memories that refused to be exorcised. The estate, a sprawling mansion shrouded in both physical and emotional isolation, offered him solitude amid the responsibilities of leadership. Roaming the marble corridors and echoing chambers, Thane's mind revisited faded recollections of a lost family, a fractured past of betrayal and promises unfulfilled. He paused before a massive portrait of his father, a revered alpha whose honor was marred by an infamous betrayal. The weight of the divine oath bore heavy on Thane's shoulders, and his heart was a battleground for duty and passion. "How can I honor this pledge when it feels like a shackle?" he murmured under his breath, eyes fixed on the painted visage of his ancestor. The solitude of his thoughts was interrupted by the arrival of his closest advisor, Donovan, whose cautious optimism offered a counterpoint to Thane's despair. "Thane," Donovan began, his tone measured and firm, "every oath is not meant to imprison but to guide. It may seem that the past and its ghosts are constraining you, but perhaps it is our very struggle against that destiny that forges true strength. The gods have given us a path, but it is our choices that illuminate it." Thane listened, absorbing the wisdom in Donovan's measured words. Although his voice betrayed a hint of melancholy, Donovan's counsel ignited a spark of resolve, a determination to confront the legacy that had shadowed him for as long as he could remember. Later that afternoon, fate intervened in the form of an unexpected visit. Seraphine reappeared in the bustling city, her presence shrouded in mystery yet brimming with urgency. Her arrival was as discreet as it was fateful. She invited Lena and Marcus to a clandestine meeting in a secluded urban garden, a hidden oasis beneath the metropolitan sprawl. With columns entwined in ivy and lanterns that flickered like small stars, the garden provided an ethereal backdrop where the lines between earthly life and supernatural wonder blurred. "Lena," Seraphine said softly as she joined the circle, "the past you seek is not without peril. Your family's legacy and Thane's oath interlace in ways that have profound consequences for all our worlds." Her tone was laced with both sorrow and resolve, hinting at painful truths yet to be unearthed. "There are forces that have long been dormant, waiting for the right moment to reclaim their power. You must tread with care, for betrayal, once sown, may yield a bitter harvest." The conversation deepened as Seraphine revealed fragments of a ritual that promised not only redemption but a chance to reforge the bonds between the divine and mortal realms. "This ritual," she explained, "requires a sacrifice that transcends personal loss, a relinquishing of one's deepest fears and the acceptance of a fate that may seem too cruel to behold." Lena's eyes shone with both determination and apprehension. "If the legacy of our blood can free us from the tyranny of destiny," she said, "then I am ready to confront whatever burden this path demands." Under the gentle rustle of leaves and the soft hum of the city beyond, each word spoken by the trio was imbued with a gravitas that echoed beyond the garden walls. Yet even as hope glimmered faintly in the night's embrace, a foreboding undercurrent prevailed. A lurking presence, neither entirely human nor wholly divine, seemed to monitor their every move. Unseen eyes observed from the shadows, and hints of a rival shifter faction's interest in disrupting the ancient oath swirled like dark portents in the cool evening air. Meanwhile, Thane, in the solitude of his ancestral estate, received a cryptic message delivered by a nimble messenger, a woman with eyes as sharp as an eagle's. The note was penned in a hurried scrawl, its content warning of an impending upheaval within the shifter community. "The balance of power is shifting," it read, "and secrets long buried may soon rise to ignite old feuds. Prepare, for betrayal lurks where loyalty once reigned." The message sent a chill down his spine. In that moment, Thane felt the heavy pull of destiny intensify, a call to arms that resonated with both pride and despair. That very night, as dusk deepened into an inky twilight, the forces colliding across the realms of mortals and shifters prepared for a fateful convergence. In secret meeting rooms beneath towering skyscrapers, influential shifter leaders gathered to discuss unprecedented disturbances in the ancient ley lines, the mystical veins of power that crisscrossed both land and soul. Their heated debate revealed fractures in long-held alliances, and whispers of an insurgency sparked fears of a looming civil strife. It was a conflict that could tear apart the intricate fabric of community and, by extension, jeopardize the delicate equilibrium that Thane and his kin had labored to preserve. Back in the urban garden, where the realms of memory and myth intertwined, Lena sat in contemplative silence. The night's contemplative ambience was interrupted only by the hushed cadence of falling rain, a soft patter that mingled with her racing thoughts. With every droplet, memories of her family's forbidden past and the personal sacrifices demanded by destiny resonated louder within her. "I must understand," she whispered to the damp air, "the true cost of defying the fate ordained to us. Who among us truly wields the power to reclaim our legacy without succumbing to its curse?" Her reflection was answered by the resolute gaze of Marcus, who placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Lena, the path of revelation is fraught with challenges. But sometimes, it is only through embracing the storm within that we gain the courage to face the one beyond. Your determination will be your beacon amid the darkness of our divided world." Their exchange, though tender and full of unspoken understanding, came at a time when every heartbeat felt like a prelude to an inevitable climax. In a city that never truly slept, the collision of old magic and modern strife was poised to escalate into a confrontation that would redefine both realms. Thane, too, steeled himself for the uncertain battles ahead. Alone beneath the sprawling canopy of ancient oaks in his private garden, he contemplated his dual existence, caught between honoring an archaic oath and pursuing a love that defied the decrees of gods and mortals alike. In hushed corridors and silent preparations, the stage was set for a dual confrontation, one that would see the bonds of family, duty, and forbidden love stretched to their limits, and one that would ultimately challenge the cosmic order itself. For both Lena and Thane, the coming days promised not only inner turmoil and external conflict but also the stirring possibility that the sacrifices demanded might lead them to a revelation beyond their wildest dreams. As midnight approached, Lena found herself drawn to an abandoned chapel on the edge of the city, a relic of a time when spiritual awakenings were more than mere whispers among the faithful. The chapel, its stained glass windows fractured by time yet still imbued with a spectral glow, beckoned her like a siren's call. Within its crumbling walls, etched words and faded symbols charted the path of an ancient rite that intertwined with her destiny. In the silent sanctum, she resolved to decipher these cryptic inscriptions, believing they held the key to both understanding and altering the course laid out by fate. Her trembling fingers traced the delicate carvings, and in a moment of profound clarity, Lena felt the temple's ancient knowledge surge within her. The realization was sudden. The answer to breaking the chains of destiny lay not in isolation, but in the unification of the fractured pieces of her past. It was a call to reconcile the betrayals that had scarred her lineage with the hope of forging a future free of inherited guilt. With resolute determination, she vowed to carry the truth forward, to not only unburden herself from the weight of ancestral expectations but also to reclaim the honor obscured by deceit. Outside, the city pulsed with life, oblivious to the inner revolution unfolding in the heart of one of its most unassuming corners. Yet, amid that vibrant chaos, Lena's silent promise echoed, a declaration of war against the relentless current of fate and the insidious machinations of those determined to see the ancient pact unbroken. In that defiant moment of self-realization, her inner strength blossomed, setting the stage for an unfolding saga of passion, sacrifice, and unexpected alliances. As the night waned into the early hours of a new day, Lena stepped out of the chapel with a renewed sense of purpose. The weight of centuries past no longer seemed an insurmountable barrier, but a challenge to be met head-on. The sacrifices, secrets, and betrayals that loomed over her existence were now threads in a larger tapestry, one that she and Thane, in their intertwined destinies, must unravel together. With her heart emboldened by the promise of change and the quiet determination of one who has seen both light and darkness, Lena embraced the uncertainties ahead. The urban night gave way to a promise of transformation, a promise that in their shared struggle against a fate too ancient to be ignored, Lena and Thane might finally rewrite the narrative of their souls. The echo of their convictions merged with the rhythm of the awakening city, setting forth an unstoppable cadence destined to shake the very foundations of both their worlds. Solitude gripped the night as Lena wandered through the maze of memories and suppressed truths, determined to piece together the tangled legacy of her family. The urban sprawl lay quiet under a velvet sky, its myriad lights trembling like distant stars mirroring the chaos within her heart. The ethereal murmurs of the past beckoned her deeper into the labyrinth of her ancestry, a realm where every whispered secret carried the weight of both blessing and curse. Under the dim glow of a flickering street lamp near an abandoned industrial district, Lena arranged a discreet meeting with Marcus in a derelict library, a forgotten sanctuary of books and silence. The library, a relic from another era, was lined with shelves of dusty tomes and manuscripts, each volume silently chronicling untold stories of families bound by fate and despair. Here, surrounded by the hushed reverence of printed wisdom, Lena hoped to uncover hidden documents that chronicled the ancient rites binding her bloodline. Marcus was already there, poring over fragile parchment with an intensity that betrayed his calm exterior. "Lena," he greeted softly as she approached, "I've unearthed a series of letters from your great-grandmother, Marianne, a woman whose life was shrouded in both honor and tragedy." He carefully passed her a brittle envelope sealed with a faded emblem bearing a crescent moon and a wolf's silhouette. The symbol, emblematic of duality and eternal conflict, stirred something deep within Lena. Unfolding the letter with trembling hands, she absorbed Marianne's words, a lament of love lost, betrayal endured, and a desperate plea for redemption that spanned generations. "These letters," Lena murmured, her voice thick with emotion, "they speak of an ancient ritual, a rite that could sever the chains of our cursed destiny but at a steep price. It claims that only through confronting the darkest truths of our past can we rewrite the future." Marcus's eyes, reflecting equal parts curiosity and concern, met hers as he added, "There is mention of a hidden chamber beneath what used to be the family estate. It is said that the secrets you seek lie dormant there, waiting for the courageous to unearth them." Compelled by the promise of answers, Lena decided to revisit the ruins of the old family estate. The dilapidated mansion, a grand structure now surrendered to time and neglect, stood at the edge of a sprawling forest, a poignant reminder of the dichotomy between the elegance of yesteryears and the sorrow of what was lost. The journey to the estate was fraught with the palpable energy of approaching destiny. Every cracked step and overgrown path seemed to whisper warnings and promises in equal measure. Inside the estate, dust motes danced in the stray beams of moonlight that filtered through shattered windows. The atmosphere was heavy with memories, and each creak of the ancient floorboards echoed with the laughter, regrets, and secrets of generations past. Lena's heart raced as she explored the mansion, guided by intuition and fragments of Marianne's words. In a secluded study filled with antiquated maps and portraits, she discovered a hidden latch behind an ornate bookshelf. With a determined push, a panel swung open to reveal a narrow staircase spiraling downward into darkness. Lena descended into the bowels of the estate with nothing but a flickering lantern to light her way. The passage was long and claustrophobic, a physical manifestation of the emotional labyrinth she had long sought to navigate. The air grew damp and heavy with the scent of earth and forgotten years. As she reached the bottom, she discovered a vast subterranean chamber lined with cryptic inscriptions and mosaics depicting scenes of divine judgment and forsaken love. Among the cryptic carvings, one motif stood out, a pair of entwined figures, a wolf and a woman, encircled by ethereal symbols of the divine. A chill ran down Lena's spine as she recognized the imagery from Marianne's letters. It was the very emblem of the ritual that promised redemption. In the center of the chamber lay a stone altar, its surface engraved with verses that seemed to throb with an ancient power. Lena traced the inscriptions with careful fingertips, feeling a pulse beneath her touch, a heartbeat that echoed the rhythm of the cosmos. At that precise moment, a sudden shift in the atmosphere heralded an uninvited presence. Emerging from the shadows, Seraphine appeared, her eyes alight with both empathy and urgency. "You have come far, Lena," she intoned, her voice reverberating softly in the cavernous space. "But be warned, not all truths bring solace. Some unveil the wounds that must be confronted before you can claim your liberation." Her words were both a comfort and a harbinger of further trials. "Your family's dark history, the sacrifices made in the name of duty, and the betrayals that have echoed through your veins, they are all intertwined with the ritual's power." Lena, though startled by the sudden confrontation, steadied herself. "Seraphine, I'm ready," she declared, her voice firm despite the trepidation swirling within. "I must know everything, every lie, every secret, even if it shatters what I once believed to be true." Seraphine regarded her with a solemn nod. "Then listen closely," she said, stepping closer as the flickering lamplight cast elongated shadows on the ancient walls. "In times long past, your ancestors forged a pact with the divine, a promise that would bind their souls to the very essence of the sacred mountain. But that pact, meant to protect your lineage, also demanded a sacrifice unimaginable in its cost. Betrayal lurked within your family, seeded by jealousy and ambition, fracturing that bond and casting a lingering curse upon each generation." Her words painted a vivid picture of heartbreak and arduous choices. "The ritual you seek," Seraphine continued, "is not merely an act of redemption. It is a reckoning with the past, one that requires the reawakening of ancient powers and the surrender of cherished illusions. Only by embracing every painful truth can you hope to mend the broken fragments of your heritage." Lena's eyes glistened with determination as she absorbed the heavy revelation. "Then I must face them all," she whispered, "no matter how devastating the truth may be." While Lena grappled with the newfound knowledge in the depths of the hidden chamber, high above in the pulsating heart of the city, Thane wrestled with his own demons. The cryptic message delivered earlier had ignited a spiraling tension within the shifter community, a veritable powder keg of rivalries and hidden ambitions. In the quiet study of his urban mansion, Thane studied the ancient emblem of the divine oath, a vivid reminder of the legacy he was bound to fulfill. The portrait of his father, now less a monument and more a grim specter, seemed to watch him with accusing eyes. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Thane confided in his trusted friend and advisor, Donovan. "I feel as if every beat of my heart is a countdown," Thane confessed, his deep voice laden with both sorrow and resolve. "The oath, the curse, the burden of protecting our people, it all weighs so heavily upon me. Yet, there is also a spark of rebellion within my soul that refuses to be extinguished." Donovan, ever the pragmatist, placed a steady hand on Thane's arm. "You must remember," he reminded him, "that strength is forged not by the absence of doubt, but by facing it head-on. Perhaps this inner turmoil is a sign that change is upon us, a chance to break free of a destiny that has long dictated the course of our lives." Encouraged yet tormented by his friend's words, Thane knew that the impending upheaval within his community would soon force him to choose between duty and the possibility of transforming the ancient oath into a vessel of hope rather than damnation. In a moment of reflection, he recalled the passionate declarations he had exchanged with Lena, the conviction in her eyes, and the fervor of a love that challenged fate itself. His heart ached with the promise of what might be lost, yet it also burned with the fierce determination to defy the cruel decrees of an imposed destiny. The convergence of two parallel quests, Lena's pursuit of ancestral truth and Thane's struggle against the edict of legacy, unwound like twin strands of a vast tapestry. As Lena retraced her steps back through the labyrinthine corridors of the underground chamber, she felt the burden of her discoveries mingling with a strange sense of liberation. The truth, as painful as it was, had kindled a resolve that transcended fear. Seraphine's parting words echoed in her mind, "Only through the fusion of truth and sacrifice can you change the course of fate." The night's quiet was shattered by the sudden sound of clashing metal and hurried footsteps in the corridors above the estate. Lena's pulse quickened as she ascended from the hidden chamber, her lantern casting trembling beams along the time-worn staircase. Outside, in the stillness of the crumbling estate grounds, a group of rival shifters, their identities cloaked in secrecy, had arrived with one purpose: to seize control of the ancient pact and its hidden power. Their leader, a formidable shifter named Calder, whose eyes burned with a mix of ambition and disdain, demanded that the secrets of the ritual be exploited for his own twisted vision of dominance. In a tense confrontation beneath the skeletal remains of a once grand archway, Calder's voice echoed through the night. Your lineage has squandered its potential long enough, Lena. Your family's legacy, tainted by betrayal and regret, must now serve a greater purpose. A purpose that does not cower before ancient oaths but instead seizes its power to control our future. His words were both a battle cry and a threat, resonating ominously with the promise of impending chaos. Lena's heart pounded fiercely as she met Calder's steely gaze, knowing that she now faced not only the specters of her past but also a present enemy determined to rewrite destiny with cruelty and ambition. Determined not to succumb to fear, Lena countered, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. I do not seek to exploit my heritage, Calder. I seek only the truth and the strength to mend the fractures of a painful past. The power of our legacy is not for those who would twist it into a weapon of subjugation. Her words met with a mixture of sneers and fervent affirmations from the gathered shifters, and the tense silence that followed seemed to weigh as heavily as the burdens of fate. It was in that moment that the inevitable collision between ideology and destiny loomed closer, poised to engulf not only her personal journey but the very soul of the shifter community. As dawn began its tentative break over the horizon, Lena retreated into the silent refuge of the estate's hidden chamber once more. There, surrounded by relics of bygone eras and the residue of unspoken sorrows, she contemplated the immense responsibility that now rested upon her shoulders. Every revelation, every moment of despair, and every glimmer of hope coalesced into a singular purpose: to confront the ancestral curses and forge a new path free of dictated destiny. With a deep, resolute breath, she repeated the silent vow whispered through the corridors of her lineage, that no matter the sacrifices required, she would stand as a beacon of truth and redemption amid the gathering storm. At the same time, Thane, across the city and within the quiet solitude of his study, prepared for a decisive council with the shifter elders. The clandestine meeting, set in an abandoned industrial loft, brought together influential figures whose allegiances had long been divided by ancient loyalties and the evolving challenges of the modern era. Among them, voices of dissent and voices of unwavering tradition clashed, a symphony of conviction and conflict that mirrored Thane's own inner struggle. As leaders from disparate clans debated the future of the sacred pact, Thane observed, his mind oscillating between duty and the unyielding desire for change. His decision, he knew, would soon ripple across both the shifter community and the legacy of his own soul. The stage was set for a confrontation that transcended generations, a reckoning in which the ghosts of the past would be summoned to decide the fate of an entire people. Lena, with Marianne's letters and the cryptic revelations of the hidden chamber in hand, and Thane, burdened by the weight of a sacred oath and the voices of his ancestors, were inexorably drawn to a moment of convergence. Each step forward was a step into the unknown, each heartbeat a measured defiance against a destiny written in ancient stone. The tension pulsed like a living force in every whispered conversation, every furtive glance exchanged in the quiet corridors of forgotten places. Both allies and foes were poised on the brink of a monumental upheaval, where the cost of redemption might be measured in heartbreak and valor alike. In the fragile twilight between what was and what could be, the threads of fate entwined around Lena and Thane, urging them onward toward a future that, though uncertain, held the promise of a transformative reckoning. As the collective forces of destiny, love, and treachery marched inexorably forward, the path to salvation, and possibly to the end of ancient curses, lay hidden just beyond the horizon of expectation. Every secret unraveled, every truth laid bare, and every sacrifice made was a step closer to the precipice of revelation, a moment when the relics of the past might finally give way to the birth of a new era. Resonance filled the air as the divided factions converged on the heart of the city, a crucible where ancient secrets and modern ambitions collided. Under the raw glare of a half-sunken moon, the atmosphere was tense with anticipation. The sprawling urban landscape had transformed into a stage for a confrontation that would determine the fate of not only shifter communities but the legacy of countless generations. Lena moved quietly through the darkened alleys, her mind a turbulent blend of determination and anxiety. The hidden chamber's revelations had shattered old illusions and kindled an inner strength that now propelled her forward. Still clutching Marianne's letters and the cryptic symbols of the ancient ritual, she prepared for the decisive moment. Her heart pounded as if echoing an age-old drum, a constant reminder that every secret unveiled had led her closer to this fateful encounter. In the clandestine meeting room of a derelict warehouse near the city's forgotten district, Thane awaited the gathering of shifter elders and dissenters alike. The warehouse, with its rusted metal beams and shattered windows that framed the grim skyline, served as a fitting arena for such an epical assembly. Thane's eyes, resolute yet vulnerable, traced the familiar emblem of his divine oath, a symbol that had both governed his life and haunted his dreams. Around him, the murmurs of restless voices coalesced into a somber chorus of discontent and hope. A circle of firelight, lit from torches and makeshift lanterns, danced along the walls, casting erratic shadows that mimicked the inner turmoil of every soul present. Thane cleared his throat, his voice slicing through the murmuring tension. "Brothers, sisters, and kin of the shifter lineage," he began, each word heavy with the weight of both authority and personal sacrifice, "tonight we stand on the brink of transformation. Our ancient pacts have dictated our lives for too long. It is time to confront both our demons and our heritage." Among the gathered elders, dissent hummed like a low, insistent vibration. Donovan, Thane's closest confidant, stepped forward. "Thane, your words echo the spirit of change that many of us have longed to embrace. Yet, we must also prepare for the sacrifices that such a paradigm shift demands. The divine oath is as much a curse as it is a promise. Tonight, the truth will either set us free, or bind us tighter to our fated chains." Meanwhile, not far from the warehouse, Lena navigated the labyrinthine urban pathways leading to an inconspicuous community center, a relic of better times now repurposed as the meeting point for those yearning for reform within the shifter community. With her resolve stealing her step, she entered the center, where a heated dialogue was already in progress among rival shifter clans and enigmatic figures who had long operated in the shadows. Calder's influence, though contested, was palpable. His supporters gathered in tight clusters, their expressions oscillating between fervor and stealthy calculation. The air was thick with anticipation and a barely concealed hostility, for Calder's ambition to seize the ancient power was as dangerous as it was alluring. His voice, sharp and commanding, resonated through the center as he decried the old ways. "We have languished under the burden of archaic oaths and flawed traditions for centuries. It is time to seize the power that is rightfully ours, to reshape our destiny on our own terms." Lena, however, stood firm, the letters clutched tightly in her hand. Her presence was a symbol of defiance, a living testament to the belief that truth and redemption could emerge from the wreckage of shattered legacies. Stepping forward into the flickering light, she addressed the crowd with a voice both tender and unyielding. "I stand before you not to rekindle old grudges or incite further discord, but to mend the fractures that have torn our people apart. Our heritage is a tapestry woven with pain and hope, both. We must embrace the dark truths of our past to illuminate a future free of tyranny and regret." Her words, imbued with the passion of a woman who had braved the depths of her lineage's secrets, resonated with many. For some, they sparked memories of loss, regret, and the brutal cost of unbroken traditions. For others, they offered a glimmer of a new dawn, a chance to recast the ancient pact into a covenant of collective redemption rather than individual sacrifice. In the flickering glow of the community center's old chandeliers, the debate raged on. Supporters of Calder's radical vision argued fiercely for a complete severance from the oppressive legacy, while Lena and a contingent of more traditionalists called for a reinterpretation, one that honored the sacrifices of the past while forging a future unburdened by old curses. The ensuing dialogue was a study in contrasts, passionate rhetoric tempered with quiet moments of introspection, interruptions punctuated by deep breaths and solemn nods from the witnesses of history. At the center of this emotional maelstrom, Lena's internal conflict played out in tandem with the external strife. The weight of every secret, every betrayal, felt as if it were etched in her very soul, reminding her of the immense responsibilities placed upon her shoulders. Memories of her clandestine meeting with Seraphine echoed in her mind, the old woman's somber warnings about the price of truth and the inevitability of sacrifice. Yet, it was the unyielding hope that burned within Lena that spurred her onward, urging her to unite the fractured factions of her kin. Back in the warehouse, Thane's speech had reached a crescendo. The elder's eyes flared with a mixture of determination and desperation as he addressed the assembly. "We cannot change our fate by running from our past. The divine oath, though heavy, is not immutable. It is but one chapter in our long history, a history we can redefine if we dare to stand together." His words ignited a spark of unity, if only fleeting, as some among the crowd began to glimpse the possibility of a future unbound by ancient decrees. Yet the rift between those clinging to old hierarchies and those yearning for liberation widened with every passing moment. During a brief recess, Thane retreated to a secluded corner of the warehouse where he could gather his thoughts away from prying eyes. In the solitude of that makeshift sanctum, he unfolded a weathered piece of parchment, another relic from his own tumultuous past. It was a personal account of his father's own struggles with the divine oath, a reminder that even the most established legacies had their moments of vulnerability. His mind drifted to the tender moments shared with Lena, their whispered promises beneath starlight, and a surge of conflicted emotion overcame him. Could love truly defy the inexorable pull of destiny? And at what cost would such defiance be achieved? In a moment of raw introspection, Thane resolved that he could no longer be a passive bearer of accursed tradition. He would become the catalyst for change, even if it meant shattering the bonds of a time-worn oath and rewriting the destiny prescribed by ancient gods. With a newfound resolve, he emerged from his seclusion, determination blazing in his eyes, intent on bridging the divide between the clashing factions and steering them toward a path of unified redemption. Meanwhile, Lena found herself face-to-face with Calder in a secluded corridor of the community center. The tension between them was palpable, a collision of ideologies manifested in mere body language and the quiet intensity of their gazes. "Calder," Lena began, her voice measured yet resolute, "your ambition blinds you to the true cost of this legacy. Our ancestors suffered not out of malice, but out of a desperate attempt to save our kind. Will you tear us apart for a fleeting vision of power, or will you learn from the mistakes of the past?" Calder's eyes flashed with a mixture of contempt and conflict on. For a brief, pregnant moment, the mask of ruthless ambition wavered, revealing the inner turmoil of a man who had once believed in a noble cause before his heart hardened with the cruelty of ambition. "I only seek what should rightfully be ours," he retorted, his voice echoing in the narrow space, "and I will not let sentiment cloud the judgment that our survival depends upon. Our heritage is a weapon, one that can free us if we dare to unleash it." Their exchange, fraught with unspoken pain and the scars of generational betrayal, underscored the deep schism that threatened to tear apart the fabric of their community. Yet it also presented a chance, a moment where the very nature of legacy could be redefined through the spark of human understanding and shared loss. As they clashed, their words grew less like weapons and more like echoes of a shared history that demanded healing. Elsewhere, as the night deepened, Thane stepped back into the center of the warehouse with renewed purpose. His presence alone commanded attention, and the murmurs from the assembly quieted to a tense silence. "Tonight," he proclaimed, "we stand at the crossroads of history. Our past, rife with sorrow and sacrifice, need not be the chain that binds us. It is in our ability to face the darkest secrets of our lineage that we can forge a future of unity and empowerment." His declaration was met with a mixture of cautious optimism and wary suspicion, a reflection of the burdens each shifter had carried for far too long. In that charged moment, with the flickering flames dancing around them and the echoes of ancestral voices whispering through the corridors, the disparate threads of fate began to intertwine. Lena's passionate plea for understanding, Calder's hardened ambition, and Thane's resolute vision for change merged into a single, pulsating force. The energy in the room was electric, as if the very universe held its breath in anticipation of what would unfold next. As the hours wore on, negotiations commenced. A series of intense, sometimes desperate dialogues that bridged the gap between old dogma and the potential for rebirth. Voices once drowned out by centuries of unyielding tradition began to share their stories, their regrets, and their hopes for a tomorrow unburdened by the weight of ancient oaths. Lena listened intently as elders recounted long-forgotten rituals and the sacrifices made in the name of duty. In these narratives lay not only the pain of betrayal but also the promise of redemption, an opportunity for the people to reclaim their destiny. Outside, the city lay in a state of guarded stillness, its bright lights muted by the heaviness of the night's revelations. The atmosphere was one of suspension, a momentary pause where time itself seemed to ripple with possibility. Every whispered agreement, every tentative truce, was a promise that perhaps the cycle of retribution and despair could finally be broken. The echoes of shared sorrow blended with dreams of renewal, and in that melding, a tentative bond of unity began to form. Within the warehouse and the community center, the seed of transformation was sown. The debates, though fierce, carried the promise of an eventual convergence of purpose, a resolution that would honor the painful truths of the past while embracing the hope of a liberated future. As dawn threatened on the horizon, each participant, be they leader or insurgent, carried with them the imprint of this night, a night when the chorus of clashing ideals slowly gave way to a tentative harmony, resilient in the face of destiny's relentless decree. In the waning hours before the first light of a new day, a quiet understanding settled over the gathering. The ancient oath, once an immutable chain, now shimmered with the potential for reformation, its power no longer an instrument of oppression, but a beacon for those daring enough to dream of freedom. The tapestry of sacrifice and betrayal, woven through with threads of shared pain and desire for redemption, was on the verge of transformation. And though the path ahead remained uncertain, the collective heartbeat of Shifterkind promised that, with unity and resolve, a new narrative was poised to be written, a narrative defined not by the legacy of suffering, but by the courage to rewrite fate in the light of truth and compassion. Aurora broke over the horizon as the final threads of destiny wove themselves into a tapestry of inevitable revelation. In the early light, the city appeared transformed, a realm where the scars of age-old conflicts began to fade, replaced by the gentle caress of possibility. The convergence of supernatural legacies and modern lives had reached its zenith, setting the stage for a culmination that would both heal old wounds and unveil secrets long shrouded in darkness. In the wake of the tumultuous councils and clandestine confrontations, Lena found herself at the heart of an ancient clearing once reserved for sacred rites. The clearing lay hidden in a quiet park on the city's outskirts, a sanctuary where nature and civilization met in quiet compromise. Here, nature's gentle embrace mingled with echoes of the divine. The air was filled with an almost palpable expectancy, as if the mountain's ancient power had descended to witness the final act of a saga written in blood and whispered promises. Lena arrived alone, the weight of her revelation still bearing down on her. Marianne's letters, the haunting images from the underground chamber, and the passionate words exchanged with allies and rivals alike had converged into one monumental decision. She had come to face the ritual that promised redemption, a culmination where the divine oath, once a chain, could be transformed into a covenant of healing for her people. Beneath the open sky, as golden rays streamed through the scattered clouds, she set up the ceremonial space with careful reverence, each step symbolic of both release and renewal. At that very moment, Thane approached through the soft haze of morning mist. His presence was a quiet storm, a blend of rugged determination and fragile vulnerability. Clad in the symbols of his pack yet stripped of the arrogance of authority, he carried the burdens of many lifetimes within his steady gaze. Approaching Lena, he spoke softly, "Lena, you've carried our collective legacy with unmatched courage. Today we stand on the precipice of redefinition. No longer must this divine oath smother our hearts. It can become the beacon that guides us into a future of unity and hope." Lena's eyes glistened with the raw intensity of all that had been sacrificed. "Thane," she replied, her voice trembling with both passion and resolve, "I have seen the darkness that our secrets breed, the betrayals that haunted my family, the relentless curse binding us to a fate of perpetual sacrifice. Yet, in the depths of that despair, I discovered one truth that shines brighter than all the others. Love, when tempered by the willingness to face the past, can rewrite destiny." In that exchange, the tumult of centuries seemed to quiet, and the murmurs of lost ancestors resonated with a note of possibility. Together, they began the ancient ritual with hesitant unity. Thane recited the sacred oath passed down from his forefathers, a ritual chant that reverberated with both solemnity and latent power. His voice wavered yet grew in strength, reaching a crescendo that mixed sorrow with hope. As his words filled the air, Lena stepped forward to place her hands upon a weathered stone altar, a relic of an era when gods and mortals intertwined in rites of passion and penance. With each recitation, the stone's surface began to glow with an ethereal light, the inscriptions coming alive as if recalling long-forgotten promises of healing and change. It was then that an unexpected figure emerged from the foliage, a stranger whose presence sent a ripple through the already charged atmosphere. The newcomer was none other than Calder. His features, once etched in the hardened lines of ambition and betrayal, now softened with the weight of his own revelations. In the moments before, he had waged a bitter campaign to seize the ancient power for his own ends. But as he stood before them, his eyes betrayed a deep regret and an earnest desire to atone. "I come not to challenge this moment," Calder declared, his voice low and remorseful, "but to offer what little redemption I possess. In my pursuit of power, I lost sight of the very essence that binds us, our shared past and the capacity to heal." The silence that followed was profound. For years, Calder's defiance had symbolized the unyielding rift between the old ways and the possibility for renewal. Now, however, his admission carved a narrow pathway for reconciliation. Lena and Thane exchanged glances fraught with cautious optimism. It was as though the confrontation between light and shadow had, at last, opened a door for a long-awaited unification. "Redemption isn't reserved for the virtuous alone," Lena said softly, "but for those brave enough to embrace their wrongs and seek to change the course of fate. Today we redefine our legacy by acknowledging our pain and vowing never to repeat its darkest chapters." As the ritual progressed, the air shimmered with supernatural energy, the kind that once heralded doom now carrying the promise of transformation. In that sacred moment, the ancient oath was no longer a chain of obligatory duty, it was a living testament to the evolution of the heart and the courage to challenge destiny. The symbols carved into the altar pulsed with a delicate light, infusing both Lena and Thane with a warmth that seemed to dispel the lingering shadows of their ancestors' misdeeds. The turning point came with a final, unexpected surge of divine power. Out of the very ether of the clearing emerged the spectral figure of Seraphine, the enigmatic seer who had guided Lena thus far. Cloaked in an aura of otherworldly luminescence, she bore the visage of an ancient guardian whose life was bound to both the pain and the promise of the sacred oath. "Behold," she intoned, her voice resonant with timeless wisdom, "the truth that has been hidden in your bloodline is not merely a burden, it is the key to a new beginning. In the union of your hearts and the courage to break free of old chains, you have opened the gates to a destiny unbound by the mistakes of the past." The revelation was as startling as it was liberating. Seraphine disclosed a secret that reverberated through the ages, a truth that had been kept hidden even from the most illustrious elders. Your ancestors forged this pact not as a curse, but as a guardian's plea for future redemption. The sacrifice demanded was never meant to be a condemnation, but a challenge for each generation to rise above its flaws and claim the power of forgiveness and renewal. Today you have collectively transformed that sacrifice into a promise of unity and healing. Her words, imbued with an undeniable finality, shifted the balance of power. It was a revelation that rewove the very fabric of their destiny, turning a cycle of betrayal and despair into a foundation for a brighter, united future. In that climactic instant, the alleys of the city and the sanctuaries of the ancient wilderness seemed to converge into one singular pulse of hope. The old oath, reimagined as a covenant of growth rather than a chain of submission, resonated with every heart present. Even Calder, who had once ignited the flames of discord, now knelt in humbled contrition, his eyes brimming with newfound understanding. "I was lost in my ambition," he admitted, voice trembling, "but now I see that true power lies not in control, but in the shared strength of forgiveness and the determination to face our truths, no matter how painful." As the ritual reached its zenith, Lena and Thane, together with their newfound allies and repentant foes, joined hands in a symbolic circle that spanned the clearing. Their joined hands and interlaced fates became the physical manifestation of a profound transformation, a unification that stretched from the concrete of modern urbanity to the timeless spirit of the sacred mountain. In that moment of collective release, a luminous wave of energy erupted from the altar, sweeping through the assembled shifters and infusing them with a clarity of purpose that transcended their individual pasts. In the days that followed, whispers of this miraculous transformation echoed throughout the city. The shifter community began to reshape its identity, embracing the lessons of sacrifice and redemption as the cornerstones of a revitalized future. Lena's courage had sparked a movement that blurred the boundaries between duty and desire, ancient curse and modern hope. Thane, now both leader and partner, endeavored to guide his people with a steady hand and an open heart. And even Calder, once an emblem of fractured ambition, dedicated himself to rebuilding what had been broken. His redemption a quiet testament to the power of transformation. Within the gentle convergence of ancient rituals and modern resolve, every secret and every betrayal gave way to the profound realization that the true strength of their lineage resided not in the sanctity of old oaths, but in the capacity to learn from painful histories and move forward together. The divine pact had been not a prophecy of inevitable doom, but a blueprint for the reclamation of honor and love, a legacy to be written by those brave enough to stand against the tide of predetermined fate. Under the spreading light of a reborn day, Lena and Thane, their hearts no longer shackled by the weight of ancestral transgressions, embraced a future uncharted but full of promise. Their shared journey, torn by betrayal, marred by secret pasts, and forged in the crucible of sacrifice, had reached its transcendent climax. In that sacred clearing, where the echoes of ancient gods mingled with the aspirations of a new era, the truth was undeniable. Love and redemption could indeed triumph over the inexorable designs of destiny.